Hello, and welcome to Nameless Studio. I'm your host, Tyler. Today we're gonna forgo the preamble and just sort of dive right in to the process, since we do have quite a bit to cover. And we're gonna start off where we left off with adding this very base layer with the black and the white encaustic elements. And now we're going to sort of scrape back a little bit of those just to sort of integrate them a little bit more into the base layer. So while I'm doing this, I wanted to talk about something that I did not mention about the game elements of this piece in the last video. That being that what we're incorporating into this piece more than anything else are going to be elements of the game, mostly to do with the sort of the BTs is what they're known as, these sort of ethereal dead sort of people that when they're around, there is almost this black goo-like sort of material that sort of covers the ground, and there is rain that accompanies it, that this rain actually ages things immediately if they are touched by said droplets. So there is this sort of aging rain and sort of black sort of liquidy goo that sort of coats the earth in areas that you find these sort of other realm undead-ish floating black beings that normal people can't really see, but your character has ways of sort of seeing them, especially when he kind of stops and focuses and really sort of tries to almost like read between the lines, and so to speak. So they're there but not really there, sort of elements. So we're going to be playing a lot with those sort of concepts as we build this piece out. Again, that being sort of the rain that erodes and ages, this black amorphous goo that sort of envelops an environment, that environment being natural versus urban, whatever it is, it coats pretty much everything. And then these sort of beings that are there but very difficult to see unless you're specifically looking for them, are also sort of the elements at play in this entire piece. So looking at where we are now, we're just still scraping stuff back to bring these levels in tone with each other. Some of these outer elements were feeling a little strong, so I'm just kind of scraping them back a little bit more as well, to create a much flatter base around the edges for now. There we are. So after this step, what we're going to be doing is giving it a look, seeing what the next layers are going to be. And with all that scraping that I did, I ended up putting a lot of texture into the sort of outline base layer, which I don't really want at this point. So I am going to give a few areas of this piece a little bit of a torch, just to kind of smooth out a lot of those marks I made with the actual X-Acto knife. Because at the moment we still want to be able to build pretty clear layers without there being the obstruction of having to deal with groove layers from previous marks that I've made. So the smoother the better for helping to build layers that aren't going to start to move oddly because of imperfections in the underlayers. So we've done just a little bit of fusing here, just to kind of break up some of the gesture marks in the white, and then just sort of soften out the outlying layers. Okay, so now we are going to be adding a new color element to this piece. That color being in iridescent German silver. And now the thing about this silver is that it actually has mica particles in it. And so once we apply those, you get sort of an iridescent, sort of sparkling sort of look from this paint in certain lights. So that in itself is going to lend into the idea that certain elements of this piece are only going to be able to be seen if you're really looking for them, to mimic the idea of the BTs being there but not really there. So there's going to be a lot of elements of this piece that really aren't going to come into focus or be even noticed unless you're really looking for them or looking at them in at a certain light. So we are going to thin out this silver just a little bit because of the mica and the metals in them. It's not as fluid as some of the other encaustic paints are. So adding just a little bit of encaustic medium just helps give it just a little bit more movement when you're brushing it on. So this is going to be the next layer that we're putting down, and really just sort of trying to fill out from in to out on this piece, and really just sort of working small little layers back out to the boundaries of the piece on this one. And so now we're going to take a torch to these layers. And what we're going to see here is exactly why I prefer using a torch to a heat gun. Because when you start working in smaller layers like this, and especially with the way I work with a lot of melting and moving of the wax, I'm only really wanting to melt and move certain aspects. Like the black that I'm now working around with the silver, I don't really want to move that so much. So having the blowtorch like this allows me to get a little bit more targeted with where I am actually putting that heat and being able to move it in very small motions like I am now, to really focus it on one point so that the rest of the piece is not heating and melting around it. With a heat gun, you have a much more diffused heat source, so it's very hard to target your heat to really focus on a certain area without sort of warming and moving the rest of the aspects around it. Like where I am now, close to these white elements too, it would be very hard to get such nice movement from just one color here. I would more often than not be melting and moving more than just the one aspect. And so now you're seeing kind of how Encaustic dries too, as it sort of sucks into its warmest point more than anything else. So it's quick too, which is why I love Encaustic. Everything dries very quickly, but that is the nature of how this one works. Is it really almost like sucks itself into it's where it's warmest. And sometimes that can affect sort of what you're seeing in the paint itself too. So it's always nice to see how it's drying, because you can manipulate it just a little bit sometimes. And we're taking things very slowly as we sort of move these layers around. We want each layer before we get to the next one to be cool to the touch. Because again, we're working in, the warmer things are to start, the easier they are going to melt. So we want all the other layers to be very cured before we go into other aspects, just to prevent any other movement from anything else. So right now we're really just trying to blend this silver into the white and other aspects of the sort of major form that we're starting to build in the center here. So just trying to take small little licks with the torch to sort of push it along into the boundaries of some of these other colors and into kind of the shape and form that we want. And then of course we'll go back over it with an X-Acto knife to sort of rebuild exactly how we want once it cools. And so there's kind of a good idea of what the silver kind of looks like. You can really start to see a little bit of a shimmer and whatnot in certain lights when we move it around. So there's a lot of possibility with this color and the way that we're kind of working this. And the last little bit, we're going to just kind of torch this little section down here, because we don't want to build the whole thing up to really just focus on this central image. We need some other elements to sort of play off of. So I just threw a little bit of this silver down here to sort of build out a little bit more than just a central image. We want a little kind of foreground to be happening, just a little bit. So I'm going to start building that foreground with this little bit of silver here. That silver is just very fun to work with. You can get some very interesting sort of texture and play, and as I said, in certain lights it just really starts to shimmer and glow.